Today our gospel reading is from Mark chapter 6 through 8. And I want to look at a passage in Mark 8, a very short passage. Before I do, I want to ask a question. Have you ever said something that you immediately regretted? Maybe it was a harsh word to a spouse. Maybe it was an argument with a parent or the scolding of a child. Maybe it was a comment on Twitter or Facebook, something that you put out there that you immediately wished you could take back. Well, we're going to see someone who does that here in our passage today. You're probably all very familiar with this story, so we're going to look at Mark chapter 8. We're going to start in verse 27 and read through to 33. So Jesus and his disciples are traveling on the road, and Jesus asks, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets." "But you," he asked them, "who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." And he strictly warned them not to tell anyone about him. This must be kind of a cool time for Peter, right? Peter is the one disciple who boldly proclaims that Jesus is the one that the Israelites have been waiting for since exile, the one who would come and establish an Israelite kingdom on earth, or so they thought. And he says, "Jesus, you are the Messiah." And then we continue to read. Then he began, Jesus, to teach them that it was necessary for the Son of Man to suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and scribes, be killed and rise after 3 days. He spoke openly about this. But Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning around and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are not thinking about God's concerns, but human concerns." Peter, who has just proclaimed Jesus the answer, the awaited upon leader and king of the Jewish people, within 2 or 3 verses has turned around and decides he needs to set Jesus straight. He needs to talk to Jesus about this stuff that he's telling them, that's not right, that he needs to change his story. I'm sure if Peter could go back and look on this, he would think to himself, I really should have thought before I spoke. I really should have taken the time to remember who I am, who Jesus is, to remember my place in this story and his place in this story. I should have just kept my mouth shut. Can I encourage you this week to think about the words that are coming out of your mouth, to think about the things you are typing on Facebook and on Twitter, to think about videos you share, to think about the language you use. And before it comes out of your mouth or out of your keyboard or from your pen, that you think, maybe I should keep my mouth shut. Maybe I should focus on what's important. Maybe I should remember my place in this story. And remember that I am a servant of God, that he loves me, that he calls me his child, that he calls me his son and daughter. And to live my life like that. And to think about what I'm going to say before I say it. Have a great week, everybody.